So I thought I'd also show a little bit of how the program is structured and how a module is written. So most of the stuff you would normally not care about as a user, but if you were a developer and you wanted to make a module for a program that you wrote, then it's good to know some of this stuff. So and just basically the uh, the program is launched from the MyPetCloud script, which you have to give executable permissions to with the chmod command. And when you run it, if it's been run for the first time, it does some one-time setup things. It generates an NPC user, records its password, and then it launches all the preference files, and it'll install applications, like install programs for the server if it needs them, and then it'll script all that installation stuff which I showed earlier. So um, prefs come from this template folder, which is just underscore prefs, and that gets copied and transferred to the MPC user folder where all the data is kept, all the volumes and reverse proxy information and everything, and passwords and all the sensitive stuff. Everything goes in there. That's like the treasure trove, really, of everything. So, so there's a couple binaries, but I haven't actually used the bin folder for anything yet. Libs are like application modules have helper functions, and they're all in here. They have a prefix AML, which means application module library, and I'll get into that in a bit. And then there's all the folders that say M next to them. Those are menus. So under the M application lifecycle, that's all the scripts for that particular menu item. Just a bit of organization. Um, so I've already gone through all the functions. No need to go through that. So really, the main thing to look at here, the most interesting thing here, is really the application modules. So we'll start with something simple like GOGS. GOGS is actually was pretty easy to write, and the module is okay. The module's 215 lines long, and is that the biggest one? Lychee is even smaller. Lychee's 114 lines. But under GOGS, you would define the application name, the Docker tag for the main application, and the DB Docker tag for the MariaDB, and you would tell it the fully qualified domain name. In this application, there's only one fully qualified domain name that you need to manage. Then memory needed is just like a user helper thing. So when you install an application, it says it's going to require a lot of memory. Do you have it? There, and that's why that's in there. License URL is just kind of like courtesy to developers. Kind of nice for developers to know that people are trying to follow the license that they put forth. The main function where all the really complicated stuff is in the install application, and these are where a lot of these helper functions have gone. So first helper says agree to license, then alert memory, which presents whiptail menu or whiptail panels that say the memory's going to be such and such size. Deal with possible existing app installation. If there's one there, then it prompts the user to delete it to make room for the new one. Database vars, that'll generate random passwords for the root password and a secondary database user password. Admin user vars, that would be like the admin user name, and that prompts you for a name and then gives you a random password for the admin user. Then the data directory is specified, the data directory is made, and so is the database volume. And the permissions for everything is given the NPC user, so it's not giving the Scott user. That wouldn't be right. you really want everything to run as a non-root user, and that's all defined in the Docker file. AML asks about internet-only access. If you want to say only allow access from a certain domain name, like your home internet domain or your home internet IP address, that'll filter out anyone who doesn't come from that address. So it's really only available on your LAN. And you could increase the number. You could add other LANs to it with a comma delimited value. Then the Docker compose file is constructed. It's made from a here doc with a T command, and then just like this is just like basically a template with some variables that we said earlier that are dumped into this file. Like the Docker tag here is a variable. The port that GOG uses, which that's defined in the preferences for now. Then another port, and then the data directory. Where the data directory lives is a variable, and then MariaDB. The DB Docker tag, it's usually 10. Then restart flag tells it to always restart on reboot. Then all the volumes, and then some environment variables like the MySQL root password is this variable, and then all that stuff. And then there's a secrets file, which has a little bit of instructions in it too. So it would say visit this URL, and then the setup details. It would say, these are the variables you need to punch in for the DB host, MySQL password, the main name, and the min password. Then it'll set root-only access for critical files like passwords, and the Docker compose file is also sensitive because it can sometimes have passwords in them too. Then the Docker compose file is launched with the up parameter with the Docker compose function. That's a program. And then install with post action is actually truly the first function that is launched during the installation process. It's like it doesn't do this function first. It does this function first. Install with post action. So like if the installation is successful, if install application otherwise 0, then it'll say it'll write the configuration files for like this. Oh, this is what is this? GOG's config. Okay, this is like a I think it's okay. This is the GOG's configuration file, and there's some variables that are slapped in there, like the domain name and stuff, and that's another here doc. And then write reverse proxy site. That goes down here, which writes the configuration file for Nginx. And this file is constructed in a way that maximizes security for using the Mozilla Observatory to see if it's actually secure with TLS and everything. So you would type in, like, this is my domain name, nextcloud.fable.com. I'll just be private about it. Forcer scan, yes. Scan me. So this says I have A+, I guess, TLS security, like TLS Observatory. It's not built. This is not been formulated for maximum compatibility. You know what? If you can't get to my site, too bad, because I want it to be as secure as possible. Some of these things could not be fixed because of one reason or another, so I couldn't pass everything. But I tried to pass as many of these things as I possibly could, and it's, I guess, kind of in line with industry standards. Like looking at a demo for another cloud software developer. They have a little demo here for their Nextcloud. So Flavable demo at Cloud Run Me, I'll scan that, and yeah, it's an A, so it's not terrible. But it's just like you should kind of keep security in mind. Some applications I'm working on right now are, well, one application I'm working on right now isn't very good. Hardened as best as possible. All right, so there's the reverse proxy configuration, and then it'll just say, do you want to show the secrets? And that's just like, if someone you don't want to be around is in the room, don't show the secrets at that time. It's a little courtesy thing, and that's pretty much it for an application. If you have a Docker if you have something that's already on Docker Hub that is already ready to go, like Nginx or a popular application like Nextcloud, which I've already done, and there's so many of them out there, that's really easy to just pick it off the shelf and leverage existing installation wisdom to put it into your custom module. Once the module is made, as you see, there's really only 1, 2, 3 functions in this one, and in Nextcloud there's 4 functions because it has a special menu for special functions for maintenance or whatever. And I'm going to have more of those menus maybe in the future for my other apps when I get around to it. And Nextcloud is a much more sophisticated installer because there's multiple modules. So as an option, you can install Collabora, but if let's say you don't need Collabora, it does take up a lot of memory, so it's good to have it. If you want it, you can put it in, but if you want to conserve your resources, you should not put it in. Full text search is another option. It doesn't really work that great. It's still, they say beta, but I thought Nextint was better, but full text search is the current thing, and I don't know when it'll be really formidable, but it's not the greatest right now, so I'll probably take it out. It's normally off, so when you're installing it, the option for it to be on it's already normally off. And it's like the modules are just like individual here docs in a temp file that define the pieces of it, and then it injects everything all together as like the ES fragment contents, that's Elasticsearch, and then C code fragment comments, that's Collabora, and then the secrets here, and then there's some post things. Unfortunately, the installation for Nextcloud with all the trimmings and everything does require some pretty careful execution of the given instructions at the very end of it. Otherwise, it won't work perfectly. Maybe someday it could be streamlined, but after that's all done, you never have to go back to it. Once the Docker Compose file is made, it's kind of set in stone until you chisel away at it or change it. Everything is basically like all the contents of an application get thrown into one folder with its volumes. Like everything concerning Nextcloud goes in the Nextcloud folder, including the folder for its database, its data, its preferences, or whatever. It all lives in the same place, and that makes it easy to manage. So it's easy to know where things are always in the same place. You can turn things on and off easily. You can remove things and replace things and back them up and whatever. It's all easy to handle.